I think that today we live in a world that is, what connects me with other people? It's our passion. It's our professional passion. It's not where I'm located geographically. So, I can have a great colleague, in Africa, and we can write together books and, we can do research together. There's no borders actually, in science. And so I really love it when you connect to people that, you actually have the same goals and motivations, and you can, have this wonderful collaboration.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. This episode is all about career, intentions, decisions. Meet Dr. Roni Dodiuk-Gad, a clinician, researcher, educator, and global opinion leader in dermatology, specifically on the topics of adverse cutaneous drug reactions and Darier disease. She mentors students and residents both in Israel and Canada and leads several research teams focusing specifically on these topics. Dr. Dodiuk-Gad graduated from the Technion and conducted clinical and research fellowships in the University of Toronto. She is currently an assistant professor in both of these institutions, the head of the Dermatology program, Bruce Rappaport Faculty of Medicine, Technion, Institute of Technology, Israel, and the head of Inflammatory and Autoimmune Skin Diseases Unit, Dermatology Department, Emek Medical Center, Israel. Dr. Dodiuk-Gad is engaged in major international collaborations, initiated and leads global educational platforms in dermatology, and she's a member of 8400, the Health Network. Well, we have a lot of different topics that people may be expecting and probably that they won't be expecting. You're assistant professor in two departments within the Technion, you're head of dermatology, but you're a global opinion leader also not in the sense of just dermatology, but also in the way that you do your research and you run your projects. Some of them, the projects that we've already talked about offline are just fascinating, and I'd love to at least get a taste of them in these short 20 minutes. But just as importantly, get a taste of your own personal journey and trajectory and career and things that you realize now that if you were to talk to your younger self, what you would say to her. And so we have a lot to unpack, Roni, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, tell me a little bit about, your work in general. What is, your work within dermatology? What got you into dermatology? And then I'd love to hear a little bit about how you look back at your career.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. So currently, I think I can define my professional path as like in three ways. First of all, I'm a physician. That's, the basic thing, that's my goal in life, to treat patients, to decrease suffering. If you ask me, what is my main goal in life, is to decrease suffering. So being a physician, that's the first. I'm a dermatologist doing advanced medical dermatology. I'm doing only, hospital-based patients and mostly complicated and patients with severe skin disorders. Then I'm a scientist. I love doing research. I've been doing that since I was, in medical school. I have students and, research is like for my soul. It's really like more of my introvert, aspect of my personality when I get the time to think and to really take into what I see in my medical, practical work, and then go into, more of the molecular basis and thinking about how we can do it in a better way. And then I'm also an educator. I see myself as somebody, mentoring students and residents. I deeply care about teaching and education in medicine in general and in dermatology in particular. I've established two global educational platforms in dermatology, and I'm very passionate about that. But I think, on top of those three issues and I think, aspects of my professional life, I see myself as a global collaborator. This is something that I've been very interested and, passionate about in the last 2 years. I think that today we live in a world that is, what connects me with other people? It's our passion. It's our professional passion. It's not where I'm located geographically. So, I can have a great colleague, in Africa, and we can write together books and, we can do research together. There's no borders actually, in science. And so I really love it when you connect to people that, you actually have the same goals and motivations, and you can, have this wonderful collaboration. So I'm very passionate about that.
I love it. Okay, so I definitely want to make sure that we talk a little bit about these global initiatives that you're working on. But before that, looking back at your career and some of the insights that you now understand that would have been relevant for you, but and are definitely relevant to young females or people in general. I think it's we may be talking a little bit about gender now, but it's definitely relevant for all different people that are coming with a seemingly different background than what society perhaps is saying. So share with me a little bit about your own career and a little bit of how you look back at it.
Yeah, sure. So, I was invited in the last, Women's Day, Women International Day, to the Faculty of Medicine at the Technion to share my journey. So I had the time to reflect back and to think, what I've learned. And I realized that I've learned so much since I, entered medical school at the age of 20. Currently, I'm 46. So it's been 26 years of professional life that, and I wish somebody told me the things that I know now. So I want to share them with, I agree with you. It's not only women, but women do have specific issues. So I think it's really relevant for everybody. But, me as a female, I think some things are more relevant. So I think, there's I call it the challenging triangle of life. So you actually have three vertices, right? You have your family, then you have your career, and then you have yourself. And how do you, coordinate yourself between these three corners, right? Because, when, in the time that you become a professional person, starting at the 20, 30, you're also building your family, which is also very important, right? And then for female, you're pregnant and, then you're breastfeeding, and then you have this very important connection as a mom. So I was struggling with this triangle, like trying to do everything and making many mistakes on the way. So I think there's some obstacles that I realized. One of them is the misleading financial calculation. This is the name I gave it. Like, what is the misleading financial calculation? When I was a resident, all the money that I've earned actually went to, to give to the babysitters and, the home task that I was given. I gave, and other people were taking care of my children, many hours in the day when I was at the hospital twice a week that I'm doing night shifts. So many people, also friends with good intentions, came to me and said, well, Roni, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't earn money because all the money that you actually earn is, you take it out and you pay some other people, to do this stuff. And then you don't earn money and you don't see your kids. Like, you don't see them as much as you want, right? You see them, but you're not close, you're not spending many hours with them. So it doesn't make any sense. Like, like, it makes more sense just, take the money or, and be with your kids. But this is a very short-term, prisma. Okay?
Yes.
So, and that may last for many years. Like for me, 5 years of my residency, that was the situation, and even a bit more. So, if you look in the short term, it makes sense, right? It doesn't make any sense to earn money, to give it to somebody else, and then go to see your kid, right? But then if you think it in a long term, you build yourself a career. You build yourself first financially, even talking only financially, Michael, really just about that. Now I earn a lot of money and, you need to invest in your career at the beginning. And you still, even if for the short term, it doesn't make any sense, for the long term, it does. I'm not even talking, about the, the self, inspiration, self-fulfillment and all the other important stuff and, all of that. But even for only the financial. So I think this is one obstacle that people need to understand and to just bear it in their mind when, they're doing what they're doing. Because many times I have students and residents and they tell me, well, I don't have time to write the paper because I need to, I don't know, clean the house. And I'm saying, you don't like outsource that. You don't need to do that. That's the time you need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, you need to think on long term and short term. The other thing is,
By the way, I think that just to touch on that point, there's a lot of very foundational understanding here now that the compound interest that one gets when they put in $1 into their 401k essentially multiplies itself tenfold by within a 30-year span by the time you take it out. And people think that if they put $10 in their 401k now, they're going to get those same $10 in the next 30 years. No, they're actually going to get a few
I
$100 from
agree.
those
I
$10.
agree.
And here it's a little bit harder to prove, I think, mathematically what you're talking about. But if you actually sit down and put away, the personal feelings and the assumptions of society, you actually understand that it's very much the case. And so I think you're touching on a very, very important point,
Yeah,
and
and I
I'm very
think,
happy we're talking about
and
it.
people convince us, especially because it's a very sensitive issue. It relates to our children, right?
Right,
It's very like,
right.
it's a sensitive, and you
Yeah.
need to be very strong about it. The other thing that I do want to mention, and that's from Sheryl Sandberg, Lini in her book, which I really like, and, I encourage
Mm-hmm.
people to read it. She talks about the challenging marathon, which I really love. What is the challenging marathon? Think about a woman and a man running in the marathon of their career, right? So the man, when he runs, everybody like cheering him up. Whoa, you're so great. You're building the future of your family. You're going to be earning a lot of money. You're bringing respect. That is wonderful. What do you need? Some water, maybe, take some, snack bar, whatever. What is the voice? What are the audience of the women, of the female, right? Of the woman running. And I was running. I'm still running. I know I know the audience very well. The audience is like, oh, you're running. But where are the kids? Where are the kids right now? You're running, you take the time to run, and you take the pleasure to fulfill yourself. But then where are your kids? Somebody else is taking care of them. Well, and do you really know what was in school today? Have you been talking to your daughter lately? Making sure that she's emotionally, everything is okay. I mean, it's nice that you want to fulfill yourself. You have the advantage of doing that, but we're just guessing what's happening back home. Like, what's happening with your husband, with your kids? Is everything okay? They would never cheer you up. They would never tell. I'm 26 of 30, 26 years of career. I can count in one hand people who said to me, "Wow, good for you. You're doing the right thing." That's
Wow.
really, personal experience. And I think when you understand that, when you do not expect the audience to be a supportive audience, when the expectation are, you just say, I know this is the voice that I'm going to hear, but that's okay. It's just okay. I'm not expecting anything else. So I think this is one thing that I learned not to expect. And then I do not have any, drawbacks. Like I'm not disappointed. I know the voice. And the third thing is,
So so what? So just to make sure, the takeaway here, it's less about trying to say, okay, let's change the way we communicate and the expectations. We're saying, okay, let's maybe as a good start, let's understand the expectations and understand what societal norms are, accept them, disagree with them, own that disagreement, and be
yeah, and
okay
don't try
with
to
it.
convince
Own the
anybody.
expectation.
I was always trying
Right.
to convince the audience to be supportive. That's a loose game. Like, you're not gonna, like, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's otherwise they really support you to begin with, and it's not much, or they don't, and that's okay. It's their issue. It's not yours. But you need to know that there is no way.
Yep.
It's just that is the way, and just don't be on like a shelter. Like, don't take it in. And then I think there are two other things that I realize more is, I think, for me as a female, that is, one is our instinct to please. I don't know if it's the way we're raised, but I see also my friends, like, we feel uncomfortable saying no. When we get to do something, like,
Mm-hmm.
can you please help me? Can you please? And you're like, yeah, you want to say yes. You want to help everybody. You want to be the good girl. And when you have a career, and when you have a career and your time is so limited, You need to say yes. No. You need to learn not to say yes. Just say, no, I'm sorry. I can't do that. And, and just, it's so hard. You couldn't imagine. I don't know if you know that feeling, but it's so hard for females to, to say no. And I've learned that. And it's still hard for me to say just no, I'm sorry. I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to help you now. I'm not able to, to have lunch with you, or I'm not able to cook dinner for whatever family member because I don't have the time. Maybe other people can do that. I don't have the time. So I think, you just need to remember those are the main things. And then I think what are the travel tips for a great career is to remember good enough is enough. I think this is really for all genders, right? I'm a perfectionist. Like I'm always have to be like, and I learned through that it's really, it's a bad thing. It doesn't work good. You need to be comfortable with good enough, and just follow. And
Yes.
if you have drawbacks, and you're having some things that you're not 100%, that's okay. You're still running. It's not it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're just still running. And I remember my mentor, Professor Neil Shear, my beloved mentor from the University of Toronto, he said to me, Roni, you know what is important? You wake up, you come to the hospital, and you're still doing what you're doing. And although we have some, difficult days, you continue to do it. You still come and continue, driving that car. And I think this is very important. So we talked a bit about outsourcing, and I think outsourcing is my main, if you said to me, Michael, like, what is the one tip that you want to say to young people? Outsource. So my grandmother, my beloved grandmother, who passed away at the age of 16, she already, I think, understood who she is. Like, she understood my personality, my character, my ambition. And she said to me something I would never forget. She said to me, Roni, it really doesn't, the towels don't care who fold them, but your kids will deeply care who, tells them the story before they go to sleep. And that was like my main thing that I've, followed in my life. I was just I'm still outsourcing everything. Whatever I don't need to do, I'm not doing. And the time that I have, at home, I make sure I make impactful and, really meaningful time with my beloved ones, with my kids, with my husband, with my family, with my friends. Like I really try just to keep as much time as I can when I'm not working with with the dear people in my life. And when I'm with them, to be with them. So I think this is very, very important, because I see many people who have career, but then at the end of 40 years of career, they have no friends, or the families already, gave up on them because they were never taking the time to invest in, in relationships. And relationships, you need to invest in relationships. It's not like, you need to be there for them when they're sick. You need to be there for them when they're not feeling well emotionally or physically, for the dear people in your life. So, and also to have great moments, like, happy moments, and, do fun things together. So I think in life, what is important, which makes us happy, is really relationships. And I think you need to invest them, although you have great career.
Right.
But the only thing you can do is like 24 hours a day. Like, you cannot invent something else yet. So you just outsource other things, even if you need to pay money for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think you're bringing up some really interesting considerations about both personal fulfillment, relationships, investments, prioritization, and understanding at the end where it counts and where it doesn't count, and how do you balance between short term and long term. And it is a balance, because you could be at the hospital
Right.
24/7. You do choose to come home and tell the
That's
story
exactly
to
the
the kids at
thing.
night. That is what counts. That is the biggest ROI. But and that balance, I think that great balance is
Right.
something that we
It's the
just don't talk
triangle.
about.
It's
And I
exactly,
think that
going back
lack
to
of
the
talking is
triangle,
there.
trying to, and it's okay sometimes in life. It doesn't have to be and, all the time balance. Like there were times in my life that I was like full in my career because I had exams and, so maybe in one year I was like mostly in my career, but then another year I was, taking some, the leg off the gas and going back, being more at home. So it doesn't have to be at the same moment, this harmony. But I think it has to be in your mind, and you have to be focused on making sure that you remember those, three important vertices in your life. And I do want to say before, I want to make sure that I give credit to my mother, because my mother, she's a professor. She has a wonderful career, and she came from a very, if I had, and I have to say my parents were very supportive, and my husband is really supportive. So I was very lucky. And even though being very lucky, it was a big struggling. So I can't even imagine how is it if you come from a home that's not supportive and you don't have my mother was a role model for me. Yeah, I knew how she had a career. I saw her was, kind of, if I was not left who I am today, that would be the surprising part, actually. It's like, it's not a big deal that I did what I did in a way. You know what I mean? Because I had a great role model. I had supportive family. I had a husband who really supports me. So big deal. Like everything was there for me. And it still was a struggle, Michael. It still was a struggle. So, it is hard. And I think it's okay to say that it's hard. Sometimes, there's International Women's Day and there come very successful women and they say, well, it's all in your head. You're just like the same. And I'm like, what the fuck? Sorry, I may not say that. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Why are you lying? Why are you not saying the truth? That it's hard, that sometimes your kids will cry when you have to go on the plane to the meeting and they will say, I had my kids, they were hard times. I had to go to New York to work there for a month. And my son was very upset with that. When we came back to Israel, I remember we went to a vacation in Eilat. And my husband, he does windsurfing. So my son, he went to the sea, to the windsurfing. I stayed at the beach with my son. And my son was crying for half an hour. I hate you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to be with you. Where's my father? And all, Israeli people were looking at me like, who's this horrible mother? Like, what does she do to her son? See, there are moments of pain, and I wanted to disappear at that moment. But now, it went away. Everything is okay. My son is so close to me, and we're great. So there will be these moments, and you're not alone. Like, it happens to everybody. That's the price that you pay. There's no free lunch. And we need to talk about it. We need to say that. I wish somebody told that to me.
At the end, it's I first of all, thank you for being so open and sharing. At the end, I think it goes back to that same triangle, that same understanding that at the end, if you have a goal of, and I think probably every parent, and I'm not a parent yet, so it's hard for me to say, but I'm guessing that every parent would agree that their goal is to provide the best life for their kids, right? And that's the end result. It doesn't really matter what profession, the best quality of life for their kids, their grandkids, etc. And if you look at everything that we've talked about now, this is where your priorities are, and what you're saying here is sometimes we get confused, perhaps, and we think that these short-term events are indicative of quality of life or long-term happiness, when really they're noise, they're obstacles, they're struggles that we should be able to deal with, but society doesn't really allow us to deal with them. Just like you said in that situation where you felt like a bad mother, sitting on that beach, even though that wasn't the case. It was a single instance.
And that moment could have brought me to say, I'm giving up on everything.
Right.
Because there was so much pain in that moment, so much pain. And, listening to his crying. And that was after I was 1 month in New York City and he was upset. And that's okay. I just needed to understand. And I remember saying, this is the price. This is the price, and everything will be okay, because I really believe in what I do, and I believe, in the reason I'm in medicine and the reason I'm doing research and science, and and nowadays my son he says to me, "You're my inspiration, Mom." He says to me that a few days ago. He said, "You're inspiring me."
And that is, I think, a much, much, much more important and amazing gift than a month here or a month there, a story here or a story there. At the end, that's the investment for long term for for him to also be a good parent later on and to provide inspiration to those around him. And Dr. Roni, I really want to thank you for the time. Everything that we talked about now, it doesn't even relate directly with your day-to-day work and the way that you're working in medicine and the global collaborations and projects. I'm already going to invite you and book you for another episode because we need to talk about them because they're just as inspiring. But I'm leaving this conversation with better understanding and energy towards prioritizations and balance or the fact that it's okay to have some imbalance sometimes.
Yes.
So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Thank you.